Hello everybody, I am back with another video after being in the woods for 10 days away from everything without any contact with society. I didn't even make any runs into town or anything, so a little shocked by the change of panic. The state of panic has really increased in that short little time, 10 days. So everybody's so panicked and in such a state of fear over the coronavirus. It's really clear after being back for just a couple of days that it's been totally hijacked the human consciousness. It's like the only thing on the news, and everything, literally every story has something to do with this virus, and everyone's so freaked out, and things are closing, and like they closed all the campgrounds over here in New Mexico where I'm camping at currently, and I wasn't in a campground, so it didn't really affect me except my last day before I left that spot. A whole bunch of people came in because they got kicked out of campgrounds, so they all go to places where there's not campgrounds, because it's still legal to camp anywhere where it's not an official campground. So now the people are way more concentrated than they were before. So I'm not sure how that's really going to help solve the problem of the spread of the virus. They said, Forest Service, I was told, said something about, touching the picnic tables or outhouses. But apparently the metal gates that you got to open and close at all the trails around here where I'm camping at now, there's trailheads everywhere, and not just here, and not just at the trailheads, different spots. You go through the trails, you gotta open and close these gates because of cattle, and I guess the virus can't spread on metal gates, only restrooms and picnic tables. So that was a little interesting. I kind of got a laugh out of that. That doesn't seem very effective. But, also libraries are closed down around here. Welcome Center for the Silver City's closed down. But the post office is still open. So if it's really such a big deal and people are really concerned and worried about stopping this thing, like the government, since they're the ones that are shutting down campgrounds. Forest Service is a federal agency, but the post office, which is also federally owned and run, is still open. So I'm sure all those packages coming from, every which way, all the big cities, going through all the major population hubs, being touched by all the mailmen, all these cities, all around the world even. I'm sure packages are coming in, but I guess that's not really a concern either. So it doesn't really make any sense the way that this is being handled. And by no means am I calling for a complete shutdown like some people, but I'm just pointing out the complete absurdity and insanity. It seems like that people are just going through and accepting with no question. That's just how we deal with it. But is that really how you just deal with it? You leave the post office open while shutting down campgrounds in the middle of the forest where there's hardly people anyway, forcing those people to be more concentrated. Anyway, that's my personal experience around here. It's not nearly as bad as some states as far as there's still a lot of businesses open, but there are lots of businesses shut down, a lot of restaurants shut down. But the fast food joints are still operating, at least for takeout and delivery. So you can still get your poison food that'll make you sick and more susceptible for coronavirus. So anyway, I'm not really sure why people are really so panicked and in such a state of fear. I personally don't know anyone that's got this virus. It's apparently really, really crazy, and we should all be really scared and terrified of this thing, even though it still hasn't killed as many people as the common flu. But they're not going to mention that because that's not going to help push the agenda. But apparently according to our own U.S. government top guy in charge, Trump's personal guy in charge of the coronavirus, he says it's only a 1% fatality rate. So that's way lower than the original 3.9% or whatever was being circulated, which also many other health officials around the world have said that that's way blown out of proportion. It's 1% probably, or even lower, so there's not really a need to be freaking out about dying, at least, so everyone can chill out a little bit, but that's not how it's going. Everyone's just freaking out worse and worse. So like I said, it's just evidence that it's completely hijacked the human mind in society right now, all around the world, especially this country, I guess. But I'm sure it's worse in countries like Italy and France. But it's being hyped way out of proportion, like 1%. So just think about it. If everyone in this country got the virus, which is really unlikely for everyone to catch it, you still only have a 1% chance of dying. So there's a lot of deadlier things out there. Like government, for example. 262 million people were killed last century. More than any other cause, they were killed by the deadliest virus known to humanity. The state. That's right, that wasn't even including war, so it was way higher numbers if you include war in that factor. And that was unarmed innocent people. Don't think that included capital punishment and whatnot. Definitely excluded wars, so obviously the automatic response to a virus that's so far less deadly than the common flu, that has way lower mortality rates than it initially thought, that was the very reason it got people into this state of fear and panic in the first place. The obvious reaction is to go to the government, the #1 killer in the world, for a solution, because that makes a whole lot of sense. So that's exactly what's happening. The agendas are being rolled out one after the other, pre-planned government agendas. Doesn't mean the virus was intentionally released in order to do so, but it's definitely a possibility. Either way, it doesn't really matter at this point. I mean, it matters in a way, but what matters far less than whether or how the virus came to be is the response to it. Because, it's being hyped way out of control, and people are just in this state of fear. And fear itself is a virus, very, very dangerous virus. Not only does fear actually physically make people sick, it's also a mental disease. There's really only two major energies out there that everything stems from, that all emotions, all decisions come from. They're either come from a state of fear or a state of love. So pretty much every problem in the entire world comes from people stuck in the state of fear. Because obviously if people were living out of a state of unconditional love, there could be no war, there could be no governments committing genocides, because even that's fear. It's a fear that, these people are going to rise up, or it's a fear that people are different than me are going to have more control, or so many things. Pretty much every evil has to do with people who are hooked, addicted, or, trapped in state of fear. So it's not really all that great that people are being pushed into deeper states of fear because of this virus, but that's what's happening. And as another aside to dispel some of the frenzy, some of the panic, maybe don't need to be so panicked. The UK itself, actually, UK health officials not that long ago actually downgraded the virus. Downgraded it. It's not a emergency for them anymore. Even though they declared a state of emergency and instituted a total lockdown, just days before the lockdown, the government health officials downgraded the virus. I forget the actual specific terms they used, but not a major threat like it had initially been thought. Yeah, anyway, it's not as bad as people are saying, so maybe don't buy into the fear. But if you're going to buy into the fear, maybe fear the real bigger danger that's going to be around long after this virus goes away. Government. Because even the U.S. government, just in the past 2 decades, ever since 2003, since the U.S. invaded Iraq, killed over a million Iraqis. This virus has killed what they say, and who knows, the numbers could be hyped, could be accurate, but they say 1,000 people, just over 1,000 people in America. Numbers are probably going up every day, but that's what I heard yesterday, over 1,000 people, and America's got the most confirmed cases of the coronavirus in the whole world now. So, interesting, but still shouldn't be as big as a concern as it is, because 1,000 deaths. The common flu, by the way, causes, just in this flu season alone, since October, 20 to 50,000 deaths. So that's 20 to 50 times more deadly than the coronavirus so far, and that could change, and I'm not saying don't be concerned. You should have food stocked up. Obviously, lots of stores are running out of stuff because people are in a frenzy. People are losing work, and I'm not trying to downplay the real, very real side effects of this, but it's being blown way out of proportion, and living in a state of fear and panicking about it's not going to help solve the problem. Not at all. And even if it goes way, way worse than they're saying, than it is right now, like they're predicting, it might become more deadly than the flu. It's not going to become more deadly than the government. It's not going to become more deadly than the wars that we're waging. It's not going to become more deadly, probably, than the terrorists we're funding in Syria. So I don't know why the people are, running to the government for all the solutions, and now they're accepting all these bailouts, banker bailouts that are devaluing their own money. So they might get a $1,200 stimulus check, I guess. That's a good thing for some people, but in the long run, it's only hurting the economy. It's going to make your dollar worth way less. It's apparently this $2 trillion bailout stimulus bill, whatever they're calling it. It's actually $6 trillion according to Trump, and it's just insanity. Like, we had 24 trillion debt, I think, just before this. It had just risen to 24 trillion, and 6, 12, 12, 24, that's 25% increase in debt overnight because of a virus that so far is less deadly than the common flu. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It doesn't seem to compute when you look at it with logic, look at it with reason, scrutinize the numbers, look at all the doctors, officials, health officials around the world and in this country, professionals who are saying that this is being blown out of proportion and that the mortality rate's really low. Mostly it's only old people dying. Not to say that old people don't matter. Of course they matter, but mostly it's over 60, especially over 70 years old, especially in Italy, where the mortality rate's so high. It's because they have such a high population of really, really old people. So basically, not only is the fatality rate really low, it is especially only significant for the oldest of the old, those with the weakest immune system. So if you're really concerned about it, maybe take this opportunity to build your immune system. Eat a lot of oranges, take vitamin C. Silver's good. The government says don't take silver because it hasn't been proven to help the coronavirus, but I did a whole video on that, and yeah, maybe it doesn't stop the COVID-19, but it kills on contact over 100 different bacterias, kills viruses, other coronaviruses like SARS. It can help stop the spread of AIDS. So silver's good, very good to build the immune system because it might stop you from getting another bug that would weaken your immune system. And anything you get that weakens your immune system at a time when there's a virus like this going around it's going to make you more susceptible to catching it, and also increase your possibility of not being able to fight it off, which is going to make the sickness obviously worse when you do get it. If you get it, it's going to stick around longer and increase your chances of death. So don't be scared about it. Just take some reasonable steps, like if you don't eat healthy, start eating healthy. Look at the bright side. I mean, this is a great opportunity for people to be focused on health, boosting their immune system. People who normally aren't health conscientious, maybe focus on your health instead of freaking out, because the freaking out's only going to increase your chances of actually getting sick from this virus or from any other number of bugs going around, or directly from the fear and panic itself, because stress hormones literally cause sickness within your body. If you're in stress too long, too much stress for too long, fear and worry and doubt and all that stuff, then you're eventually going to get sick from it, even if you don't catch a bug from outside you. So don't stay in the state of fear. They feed off your fear, but don't feed into it. Don't feed the system. Don't feed them with your fear and your panic. Just take some measures. Maybe if you really scared, stay at home, self-quarantine, make sure you got a good stock of food. Hopefully you weren't like all those idiots that made a run on toilet paper 2 weeks ago so that no one else could get their toilet paper for weeks. I guess there hasn't been any toilet paper in Silver City for 2 weeks now, but I got mine just before they ran out completely. But anyway, yeah, people, I mean, the masses are so easily programmed and indoctrinated. They all run for toilet paper, but they didn't run for the food at first, because apparently they didn't realize that if they don't have any food, they're actually not going to need the toilet paper, because who needs to wipe their butt when they're not eating food? That's just basic human biology. But they realized, like a week later, after everyone freaked out about toilet paper, I guess they realized that, oh no, if there's really going to be a reason need to be stocked up on stuff, maybe I'm going to need food too. And then everybody rushed for food, and now there's actually food shortages. So it's really not surprising that people are in this panic. I mean, it's the same people that wanted toilet paper more than they wanted food. So sadly, that's the state that we're in, and pandemic like this is being used to push through so many agendas. Like 5G is being rolled out right under our noses and nobody even knows about it. I'm not sure about around here, but the bill passed pretty silently. The 5G bill that's pretty much that tells Trump has to make sure there's going to be 5G. So for anyone who's aware of the health dangers of 5G, that should be, I'm not saying be scared, but if you're going to be scared, that should be terrifying, far more terrifying than the coronavirus. Because the coronavirus, as bad as it's going to get, might get way worse than it is now. It might not get much worse, but let's say it gets as bad as it's going to get. Let's say everyone in America catches it, 1% of the population dies. That's pretty horrible, but in the long run, that's nothing compared to the combined deaths caused by alcohol and big pharma and all the people dying from cancer and other heart-related diseases and other diseases caused by big food, from unhealthy diets, from stuffing their face with meat 3 meals a day, not just meat either, but processed meat like McDonald's, fake meat, all this stuff. Fake food, it's not even real. All this poison being sprayed on our food, insecticides and whatnot, set to cause cancer. And so that's been around. It's gonna be around. Same with government. Same with the government regulations that they're imposing now. They're not gonna go away when the coronavirus goes away. So even if 1% of the population dies, if every single person gets it, and it is a 1% mortality rate, that would be a lot of people. But a lot of people die anyway. Look at Africa. Look at third world countries. How many people die of starvation, children, every single day? How many People in Yemen are dying every single day from the U.S. bombs being dropped on them by the U.S.-backed Saudi regime, Saudi Arabia, the kingdom, and the starvation, and the sicknesses because the blockade isn't allowing them to get medicine. And that's Yemen. A lot. People dying in Yemen, innocent little children dying in Yemen. But let's be concerned about the coronavirus. You know, there's Palestinians die every day from Israel, and we're giving them over, $10 million every single day. But let's go into a panic attack over this coronavirus. Bad, but it's not devastating in the long run compared to all the other things out there that kill people every day. Alcohol, tobacco, drugs, overdoses, prescription drugs, doctors, malpractice. That's actually a high cause of death in this country. But people aren't panicking about any of those things. Third world countries like Africa, due to colonial policies that are still in effect, even though the colonization has officially ended, big U.S. and other Western corporations still keep these countries in their state of being third world. It's why they're third world countries, and no panic about that. And every single day, children are dying in Yemen, in Africa, in the Middle East, partly due to the big corporate policies protected by government laws in this country and all throughout the West. But, coronavirus is crazy. It's not like the wars that the governments waged, World War I, World War II, the Civil War, Vietnam, future wars, all the little wars in the Middle East right now, ongoing. Depleted uranium. We use depleted uranium. This government, U.S. government, used depleted uranium in Gulf War, first Iraq War, second Iraq War in 2003, they used it. It's a war crime. The UN declared it illegal to use depleted uranium munitions because of what it does. Does our government care? No, they don't care. But we trust them to care about us when they pass their laws, supposedly to protect us from coronavirus. It has nothing to do with protecting us from the virus. They don't care if we're protected from the virus. They care about more control, about more money. Bankers making bank with their trillions, printing it out of thin air, buying up real assets. Yeah, they're going to walk away with real assets. Everyone else is stuck with even more worthless paper. More worthless than it was before. So it's crazy that people are in this much of a panic over this. And depleted uranium, it never goes away. We use so many depleted uranium munitions. There's lots of good documentaries on it. Go look it up. Give yourself something to be concerned about and take your mind off of the crazy coronavirus panic. Babies being born deformed in Iraq at an increasing rate, and increasingly deformed. It's really horrible. Being born with two heads, being born with growths. Some won't live into even early childhood. Others are just going to be basically crippled for the rest of their life. Never able to talk. Some are born without mouths. Can't eat, so they die. Some are born with... It's crazy. The deformities, I can't even describe some of them. And it's horrible and sickening. That's what our government does. They don't care about humanity, whether it's their own people or foreign people, because American soldiers, they got the radiation from depleted uranium as well. They were told it was fine, but it wasn't fine. They brought the radiation back, so their families also got sick. They call it Gulf syndrome, the sickness from the radiation, but it's radiation poisoning from depleted uranium. So, and there's so many other things that the government does, and so many other causes of death that I could go on and on about, but that should be enough to make people think about all the reasons they don't really need to be in such a panic. And if they are going to be in a panic, well, why don't you panic about the real problems that are going to be around still and have been around since the beginning of time, starting with fear, because fear is a real issue. Fear breeds hate, and hatred is the cause of so much war and whatnot. And when people are in a state of fear, you can see the negative side effects of it right now. All these laws, all these lockdowns, total martial law just around the corner, and there's actually people out there pushing for it. No, we need everyone to be locked in their houses. We need penalties for people who don't want to stay in their homes. Governments, they're a bunch of hypocrites, liars, murderers. So when they talk about passing laws to help protect you from coronavirus, it's a cover. Coronavirus might be real, but their intentions, they're not authentic, not one bit. They don't care about protecting you from coronavirus. Not at all. They care about increasing their control, increasing their pocketbooks. And that's pretty much it. Their control and their wealth. They don't care about you losing your job. This is intentional. They're wiping out the middle class. They don't care about the middle class. $1,200 stimulus check to keep you from protesting, to keep you in line. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it. But basically, if you take anything from this video, one way or another, get out of that state of fear. And just, you got to get out of the state of fear. And we need to shift our consciousness, humanity, to a more love-based consciousness than a fear-based one. So maybe this could serve as a wake-up call. Now we see all the negative stuff being passed by the government. It's all because of people in fear, allowing it to happen. So if we see that as the warning signs and begin to shift our consciousness over to one based on love, where we're focused more on, sharing with people in need rather than hoarding it all for ourselves, hoarding all the toilet paper, not thinking about our neighbor. Same with food. Focused on feeding the homeless rather than locking ourselves in the house away from everyone when there's the elderly and the weak and like the homeless and whatnot. They all probably, more than ever, they should be supported and helped. And yet we're being told to socially distance ourselves from everyone. Who's telling us this? The same government politicians that'll stand up there when they sign laws, touching shoulder to shoulder, passing pens around, everyone in the room, telling you socially distance yourself. Do they have to do it? No, they don't have to do it. That's government for you. Deadliest virus human race has ever known. Anyway, hope you guys got something useful out of this video. That's all for now. Stay safe out there. Don't panic, please. Don't panic. Just enjoy life. If you got time off, enjoy your time off. Look at the world in a different way than the way the media tells you to look at it. Unplug yourself from the system of fear-based thinking, fear-based thought constructs. Till next time, this has been Jason. Have a good one. Peace.